Hi guys, this the Imola Lap guide. Wanted to do something else this week as well. Talk about a bit of setup. I'm going to do that. I just did a few laps here, so I'm not totally cold at this track now. And I've pretty much got my setup sorted, which is exactly the same as the Internazionale setup I used. Maybe with a little bit less power ramp and a little less brake bias. I think my brake bias is around 57. This is a tough track. This is quite low grip. I'll say sort of medium grip, but there's a lot of places where the car gets light. And not only light, but light when you've got your foot down as well. So this goes back to all you guys who are sort of new to the car, or even if you're not new to the car and you're wondering what's going on and all the rest of it. Don't worry about where the car gets light. Don't worry about lifting or short shifting or whatever you got to do. It probably won't be a short shift. It'll probably be a lift off the power. Don't panic. Everyone has to do it. I used to really panic about that in the V8 supercar. I used to really hate it. I used to think, oh, you know, why does it seem like everyone else is flying over these crests and I've got to lift off? You know, everyone has to lift off. It's just physics. We've all got the same car, you know, so don't worry about it. A lot of, well, let's just say a lot of people see this layout as the new layout, you know, since '94. Because of that weekend, you know. A lot of people know, obviously know Senna crashed here. Few more people, well, a few less people probably know Roland Ratzenberger died here as well, and a few less people than that saw the Rubens Barrichello crash that happened here, and that was I think that was the first. Yeah, that was the first crash that happened, and that was a real bad one. I can't remember what corner it was out of, but he seemed to just go too fast through the corner or lost the rear end probably. I can't really remember. I haven't seen it for a long time. But the car went over the exit curb and took off, and you can see the way the tyres are set up at this track. They're sort of about 3 or 4 feet high, and his car sort of flew over those and hit the fence behind those and came back onto the grass upside down. And when you look at the crash now, probably the worst thing is how the marshals flipped the car back over onto its wheels. Something that would never happen these days. But everyone thought that was normal back then, and it was, because it was normal back then to do things like that, you know, get the car back on its wheels and, you know, is the driver okay, you know? But, I mean, you can see how much his head moves around when the car flips back onto its wheels, you know, where the marshals have pulled the car back over, you know. So that was then, that was this track, and, yeah, so it was a pretty shocking weekend, and it was one of the only weekends I've ever missed watching the race. I watched it back the next day. I've watched pretty much every race since about 1988, and I think this was the first one I missed. And I actually remember what I was doing. I was over the field. That's not that far from this house, and I was with an old mate who I hadn't seen for years. We was just over the fields there, just having a chat and stuff, and that was why I missed the race. So yeah, so that's that. Yeah, so new layout. Everyone, you know, sort of, you know, a lot of people regard this as a new layout. The old layout was over the pit, over the start-finishing line, then into a seriously fast left-hander, and then it just went down another huge straight, and then a slight kink to the right, and then the hairpin at the end of the long straight. And I can't remember if the rest of the layouts changed. It might have done. I can't remember. But that's the major change that this track went through after '94. So yeah, so turn one, is one of the toughest braking zones you'll ever try and nail in this car. And an even tougher one is the one down the back when you go under the bridge, when you're heading down the hill. That is hard. And I'm on default weather now, and it feels like there's hardly any grip in the track at all, especially at that point where you're turning right, you're braking, trail braking a really fast corner, and then you have to get that corner right, because as soon as your car settles and straightens up, you have to really nail the brakes, you know, really hammer them to get slowed down for the last two left-handers onto the front straight again. But you'll see what I mean when I run my lap. No doubt you've already run your laps anyway, because this is Tuesday. So, like I say, I'll probably go for a little bit of setup as well, just to show you what the different things on the car do, some of them anyway. And hopefully you'll be able to see what happens when I'm out on track. So let me just go through where the braking points are first, like I always do. New microphone this week, so hopefully you can hear what I'm saying. Last week I did that video and talked about the differential and how it works and stuff like that, and ramp angles and what a ramp angle is, and I couldn't even hear it myself when I listened back. I couldn't understand what I was saying myself, and I was the one that said it. So I don't know how you lot did, but I know a couple of you didn't. So if you guys want me to do that video again, or, you know, obviously talk about a differential again or whatever, I'll do it. So just let me know on the forum. Just say, Mick, do that video again. You don't even have to say please. 4 words. Do that video again. Right, so I'm using my Interlagos set. That set was pretty good round fast corners. Oh, I just missed the brake marker. That set was pretty good round fast corners. I don't know why I've tried it here, because there's not that many fast corners here. There's some medium speed corners, which I'm hoping are going to be pretty good for the setup. Right, your first brake marker is before the end of this white line. So 250 metres seems a massive amount to me. And it's probably 255, looking at that fence. So yeah, I did have to look at that twice when I was in the session earlier. So 250 metre board all the way down to second gear, and at this track, don't hit these sausages on the left. The yellow and black sausages are bad. Sausages are bad. The car is a vegetarian at this track. So stay off the black sausages and aim for the red meat, or in other words, those curbs. Short shift up to third gear here. Hit a bit of that red and white curb, and then your brake zone, your brake marker for this turn coming up is just before this little pathway on the right hand side. So you'll always be able to see that, even if you're right stuck behind the car, you'll be able to see that. This is what I normally call a sacrifice corner, because you don't go around it as fast as you can, because you need to stay on the left. So pretty much sacrifice that corner there to get a good entry into this one. Again, be a veggie there. Hit the red meat there, and hit the green part, hit your veggies on this part. So veggie sausages are not good, but veggies, you know, your greens are good. Your greens and your red and meat, and your red and white meats are good. Your sausages are bad, so the car doesn't know what it wants to eat this week. Anyway, try and aim for some sort of apex on this turn. It's quite hard to do as it goes. Little bit of red meat there. Take a really nice wide entry into it. You can go out as much as here, cut across there. This is another one of these crests I'm talking about where the car gets light. So you got to watch the rear end going over this hill. I think your brake marker for this one is just before the track goes dark around there, so it's miles before the 50 board. And this corner, you always seem to be going too fast for it, and if you are going too fast for it, you're gonna lose a spot if there's a car behind you, because if you come out onto this dark green stuff, you've got no grip whatsoever. You'll understeer, you'd be all over the place, and someone will get down the inside of you there. So you've got to really, really pay attention to that corner there. It's quite important, that corner. Down here, I think this is a third gear corner. Don't take too much of this curb, just stay on the red meat there. Maybe a little veggie there, because you're going to get a slowdown. You get slowdowns really easy there. This is second gear corner, start the sausages, hit the red meat. Hit the red meat here, but stay off the veggies here, because your car's going to get upset. It's going to have a stomach upset trying to get over this crest, because you're up in the second gear, third gear, getting over that crest there. It's pretty tricky, so you want to stay off the, just stay off all the food there. This brake marker here for this turn is around there, just before the 100 metre board, maybe a little touch earlier than that, about there for the 100 metre board for this corner. And then these dark areas here that sort of look like black pudding, aim for that. Well, it's black and yellow, isn't it? What is black and yellow? Black pudding with Frosties, Rice Krispies maybe mixed in. So plenty of breakfast over these. Get the middle of the car, you know, over this. So you want some breakfast going right down the radiator there. Red meat on the exit. And this is the toughest corner on the track by miles. This is a fourth gear corner, so you're entering this corner from here. And you're on the brake all the way down here. Slight brake, slight brake, slight brake, slight brake. Obviously aim for an apex like I haven't. But when you get to here, this is where you need to hammer the brakes. You're already going downhill. And it's really tough. So tough, in fact, I remember Alan Prost crashed into that barrier over there on a warm-up lap in the wet. It was in the wet. Maybe he had slicks on, I don't know. But yeah, his race was over on the warm-up lap over there one year. Plenty of sprouts and veggies on that curb. Again, plenty of veggies, straight across the meat onto the veg on that one. Again, same here, across the meat onto the veg. But you just want a little taste of the meat on this one, about halfway up that meaty curb there. Look, you don't want to go over the middle line. You can already see, look, there's a line on the middle of that curb. You don't want to go over that. You can go as far as it, but don't go over it, because you'll upset the rear of the car. So let's get up to speed then, see if I can run some laps. So, the end of the white line, before the end of the white line, is where you want to hit the brakes here. About there. Down to second. Across the meat, stay off the sausage. I'll hit a sausage. You can maybe have a little nibble of the sausage. See how you feel, see if you're hungry enough. Before the road on the right. Well, missed the gear, went into second. Tiny bit of sausage again. Yeah, I'd say maybe it's not too bad. Tasting a little bit of the sausage. Wide entry into there, down to third gear, before the crest. Slowly, 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 make sure you don't get on the meat there. Half throttle through there. Down to third gear for this, don't take too much curb. Second gear, bit of meat, again bit of meat on the left. That's what I'm talking about, where the car gets light. 100 metre board. Take plenty of breakfast on this one, plenty of breakfast on that one. Bit of red meat on that one. Wide entry under the bridge, and you've got to be on the brakes around now. Still on the brake, 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 then hammer the brakes. Bit of veggies there, veggies here, and veggies here. And just a little bit of red meat, too much. That was too much veg. Let's go again. Before the white line ends, there. Try a little bit of a nibble of a sausage. Yep, yeah, that's alright. That's alright as well. Bit of red meat there. Bit of red meat on the right. Brake before the road on the right. Down to third. Gone in there too fast because I've messed up my entry there. All the way to the veg. Before the road on the right. I burped then, I've been eating too much food. Right, nice wide line into this corner. Down to third gear, see where the rear went then. You just got to get used to that. That's going to happen. Half throttle, maybe a little bit more. Bit of meat there. Bit of meat here. Missed it. Little bit of meat there. Flat shifted there. Makes things be easier. Load of breakfast. Missed breakfast. Missed the other breakfast. And had veggies instead. Brake before the bridge, staying fourth, and then hammer the brakes all the way to the veg, and a little bit more veg, and a little bit of meat. On the veggie there across, I forgot about that. Right, here we go. Before the end of the white line. Bit of red meat, bit more red meat, third gear, nice bit of meat, a little bit of veggie there as well, brake before the road, third gear, slow entry, nice, that's nice, on the parallel right on the veg, early brake before the road on the right again, get a nice exit, hard on the power and let the steering not do that. It's one of those corners where you've got to let the steering be forced out open again, like I was saying last week. Tough acceleration zone that is. Staying third, bit of curb, red meat I mean, too much veggie there, upsets the car on this one. My time's disappearing there on that straight. Load of breakfast, more breakfast, bit of meat. Stay in fourth gear, brake, and then hammer the brakes. Down to second, have some veggies for good measure. Bit more veggies and a little bit of red meat on this one. I missed my veggies there. Watch for the white line. Bit of sausage maybe? Nope. Nope. Yep, had a bit of sausage there. Bit of meat. More meat. Road on the right hand side. Down to third gear. Bit of meat. Second gear, more meat. All the way up to the veggies on there. Before the road on the right again. Yep, still got some sort of wave. Steering's forced out straight, there it is. Full power to get the steering out straight. Down to third. Got to brake before the dark bit there. Really take it easy through there. It's really easy to run wide. Bit of meat there, bit more meat there, here we go, that's a good line, that's how you want it. Still hard to get on the power though. 100 metre board, go for your breakfast, there it is. Can be a bit more hungry on those breakfast tables there. Brake, 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 brake. Mash the brake. Mash, did you get it? Load of veggie there. A bit more veggie there. No, no. Watch for a line. Down to second gear. Try some sausage. There it is. A bit more. Yeah. Yeah, I thought the sausages were bad here, but they're not. They're pretty good. Tasting quite nice today. Down to third gear. Maybe a bit of sausage there? Nah. Maybe.
They say you cut the course. You'll have to slow down and give up the time gained.
That span on cooking fat there from the first sausage. So we get the steering. No, tyres are too hot now. Right, anyway, that's enough food. Right, let's go to the setup. Right, so the only thing I want to change, the only thing I really want to change is the shocks. Everything else feels pretty good as it goes. Right, I actually had 0 settings on all 4 corners of the car. I've gone to 6. What that does, I've got the number 6 on all 4 corners and bump and rebound settings on the shock absorbers. What that does is when I accelerate, the car's going to be more forgiving. There's going to be a bit more understeer. And when I decelerate, again, it's just going to be a bit more forgiving. As you turn in, you know, when you turn in, the car rolls over, so you turn into a left-hand corner, and the car wants to roll to the right. Obviously, you've got your roll bar stopping the car rolling, but the shocks help that as well, because you're braking as well. The shocks slow everything down, so imagine the shocks, I don't know, if you don't know what a shock absorber is, well, it's basically, it's a, how do I explain this? Imagine a bar that you can squash. Imagine a bicycle pump. You got a bicycle pump. Imagine that pump is set on 0. You can pump it really fast. Pushing it down is the rebound. Pushing it down is the bump. Pulling it away is the rebound. So if you got your settings on 0, that pump's really easy to use backwards and forwards. If you got your bump set on 6, it's harder to push down, but easy to pull out again. If you got your rebound set on 6, it's as easy. It's the same pressure. It's harder than if it was on 0. So it's hard to push in. It's hard to pull out. Hard to push in. Hard to pull out because it's set on 6. Set it on 12. You've got to stand on the thing to get it to push down, and you got to put a rope on it to pull it out. You know. So that's the difference. Is I always thought for years, I always go back to talking about when I was driving the V8, because I used to be into that car so much, and I tried to learn everything I could about how to set up cars and everything just from that car. And I always thought iRacing had it the wrong way around, because as well as these sort of cars, I'm into drag racing and stuff like that. You know, I don't do it. I've never done any of that, but I'm just interested in it. And I always knew that they had really low rebound settings on the front and really low bump settings on the rear on certain cars. And what that did was that gave all the rear end grip, because the front of the car lifts. You know, as soon as they want to go from the lights, the front of the car lifts up and the back of the car squats down. So all the weight transfer's gone onto the back wheels, you know, which are huge on a drag racer, and you get all the grip on the rear. So I always thought that was what happened on racing cars, road racing cars. And, you know, I still don't understand why it doesn't do that. You know, it's opposite. And I don't understand that. I've got no idea why it's the opposite. But it just is. Don't ask me why it is. I don't know. So rather than having a soft bump on the rear and a soft rebound on the front to give you grip accelerating, it's backwards on these cars. I don't know if it's right or wrong. It's probably right. You know, these aren't drag racers, are they? And drag racers don't go around corners, so it's going to be right. You know. So yeah. So if you want the car to be easier coming out of a corner as you floor the pedal, you go higher on the bump and higher on the front rebound. If you want it a bit looser as you get on the power, it's only as the car squats down, only as the suspension squats down. That's the only time the shock absorber's working, when the suspension is moving. So once it's down, it's down. You know, there's no shock absorber happening then. You know, obviously it moves around all the time, but this is when I'm talking about when you first get on the power and the back squats. That's when your shock absorbers are doing what they do. So yeah. So if you want it to be, like I say, if you want it to be tighter coming out the corner, you go up on your front rebounds and up on your rear bumps. And I've run setups where I had 12 front rebound and 12 rear bump, which has let me to go to 35 power ramp on the diff, and that was the only reason why I did it. And places like any races, any overcast races, I'll always go down on the power ramp anyway. So if I'm at 50 on a power ramp in a hot track, I'll definitely be going to 40, 35 in a cold session. And if that's too scary, I might go up on the rear bumps and the front rebounds just to calm it down again. Same again, sometimes you got corners where you're braking and turning and stuff like that, and it's quite tricky, and you almost sort of feel the car's sort of turning in too much. You can cure it on the shock absorbers, you know, and if it's a track like this one, it's probably a good idea to experiment on this track with your front rebound, your front bumps and your rear rebounds, because you're braking and turning on a few of these corners. Is it a few of these corners, or is it just the main right under the bridge? I can't remember, but it's worth trying. If you feel like your car's, when you hit the brake and you turn, if you feel like your car's turning miles too much and you're losing the rear end and all the rest of it, go up on the front bumps and the rear rebounds, and that should sort it out. And that's a better setting to use than going down on your coast ramp, because your coast ramp will tighten the car up for every corner. So will your bump and your rebounds on your shocks, but I just like the idea of doing it on the shocks instead of the diff. The difference is, that's what I was trying to think of. Why is it different with the diff or the shocks? The difference is say like you're coming down the hill at the end of this lap and you're doing that fast right-hander under the bridge, and you're just slowing down. You're slowing down as hard as you can for the two left-handers back onto the front straight. As you're going downhill, fourth gear into that corner underneath the bridge, if you do it using the diff, that diff is going to be causing understeer. What you might want, you know, if you want understeer around the whole corner, then do it on the diff. But if you don't want understeer on the whole of the corner, do it on the shocks, you know, because it'll only be when you touch the brakes and the front dips down that your car's being caused to push a bit by the shocks. Once that movement has stopped, once your car's stopped moving on the front end of the, you know, once the dip has stopped, you know, and it will stop, you know, because it's only going to go down so far, and then it stops, you know, the spring weight, you know, clamps up, and the springs are stronger, so it's not going to let the front of the car dip down anymore, you know, and you're still in the corner, you know, you're still cornering. The shocks will cure that just as you turn in, or just as you hit the brake and turn in. If you do it on the diff, it will cause it to do the same thing as you turn in and hit the brake, but it will cause it to do it all the way around the corner again until you get on power, because it's on the coast side of the diff. If you could hear me last week, you know, you remember what the diff's doing. You know, it's slowing the car down, it's causing understeer all the way through the corner until you get on. Well, it's causing understeer all the time when you're off power. You know, so that's why you really want to do it on the shocks instead. It's different you know, viewpoints. You know, if you want understeer around the whole of the corner, do it on the diff. But I can't think of anywhere where you're going to want that round the whole lap. So that's why I'd go for it on the shocks. So higher bump, higher rebound. That's what I'm going to try now, which I've already set. You know, I've 7 to 6 and 6 on all 4 corners. So it's going to be a little bit easier on the power coming out of slow corners or any corners while I'm getting on the power, and it's going to be a lot easier going into the corners. So let me just try it. I mean, it was drivable without the shocks on 6, but I'm just going to try it. Always seems nice to have your shock set at 6 anyway, you know, just because they're halfway from 0 to 12, you know. And it makes it a lot easier when the car's eating its sausages and eating its red meat and veggies. For some reason, I don't know what the reason is. I can't believe I didn't get a slow down there. Nice bit of breakfast there. This is where I'm expecting it to really help out, just as I'm going through this corner and then hitting the brakes here. That'll sort all the problems out there, if there were any. Left that a bit late, I think. Yeah, that's not too bad. That was just about 2 metres before the end of that white line, and that is the limit for me in that brake zone. Missed this one. Easier to get on power now as well with a rear bump and the front rebound set at 6. So it's just made the car less aggressive. Doesn't mean it's made it faster necessarily, but it's made it a little bit easier to drive. It's making me miss my breakfast as well. But this braking zone now is much easier.
They say you cut the course. You'll have to slow down and give up the time gained.
Right, there's another thing I want to say about setup. Let me just get out of the car. Without making this video go on for hours and hours like it did last week, now I'm just going to finish up by saying one of the main things you want to do is when the track opens Monday night or whenever it does for you lot, if you go out and run your laps, just make sure you're just use whatever set you've got. Or just think about what set you want to use. I mean, I used Interlagos here mainly because that setup was pretty good out the fast corners, and I mean, and it's set up for left an anti-clockwise track, which really means just a little bit of higher tyre pressures on the left-hand side. That's all it means, really. I've actually gone down to 19 psi all around the car now, just because I'm in default weather, and I just wanted to just get an idea of what that felt like and what that looked like. But yeah, the main thing I want to say about setup is when you get to the new track, when the track opens, just pick a setup what you think's going to be right gearing wise. That's what I'll do. I'll talk about gearing this week. Let me get in the car. I don't want to upset Simon too. Spending hours talking about setup. So gearing, what you need to do is, choose your setup for the week, whatever you're going to choose, and then just make sure your gearing's alright. Obviously for your final drive is pretty obvious, you need to sort that out, but the main thing, one of the main things, and I know pretty much every regular in this car will tell you the same thing, you need to be in the right gear for the corners. This engine's quite peaky. What I mean by that is it's sort of got no power whatsoever until you get to about 5,500, 6,000, and then it sort of picks up around sort of 6,000, and it doesn't really give you full power till about 8,500. So it's I mean, I always said it's a drivable engine. It is, but because we're not driving the real car here, you don't really feel that, and you can sort of feel a definite power increase up around 8,000 RPM. It's a 16 valve engine, well, 16 valve each side, and that's what they were like back then. If you drive one of the old 16 valve engines, if you're as old as me and you've driven something like a Dolomite Sprint or something, you'll know what I'm talking about. Or a GPZ 900 for Bruce Nelson out there listening. You get up to around 9,000 or 8,000 RPM on a old 80 16 valve motorbike. Then you'll feel the difference when you get to that high rev range. You'll feel it in your forearms. Trust me. But anyway, what am I talking about? Gears. So I reckon one of the main gears to get right in this car is second gear, because second gear is normally off of all these slow corners, and if you're either too low in the revs or too high in the revs, you're either going to have no power whatsoever coming off the corner if your revs are too low, say under 5,000, and if you're over 7,000 coming off of these corners, you got to change gear up to third gear while you're still turning, and everyone knows how hard it is to get this car off a corner. So you're going to lose a massive amount of time because you're not going to be at full power. When I'm coming off these second gear corners, I can pretty much be at full power before the car's straight, and that's because the steering's been full straight, like there. Maybe this one as well. You can see that I'm at full power. Full power now. There's a lot of grip in the car at the moment because I've just come out of the pits, but I can do it. And this is a third gear corner, but it's the same thing. If you look at the revs, they're around 6,000 RPM. Let's check this one out. Third gear here, about 7,000. This should be around 6,000 coming out of there. The last thing you want to be doing is be getting on power at 7,000 RPM. You've got to change gear. You've got to change gear here. Right on the exit. If your second gear is too low, you're going to be changing up to third gear here. And all that's going to happen is you're going to go up to third, and the car's just going to fishtail out of there because there's no grip. So just as I do this last lap, just check out where my revs are coming out of these corners, and you'll see that I don't really have to change gear unless I'm doing a short shift. I don't really have to change gear until the car's pretty much sorted. So I've got plenty of room on the rev counter there, coming out the last corner. Should be I think there's a short shift coming up here for this second part of the chicane, but just look where the second gear is. About 6.5. Short shift up to third. Look, I'm at 6,000 now. Look, on this exit of 7,000. See where I am at this corner. Yeah, around 6.5. I'm talking about apex revs here, so about 5,000 there. We've got all this room in second gear now to accelerate. Same out of this slow, the slow second gear corner down here. Watch where the revs are. Oh, messed it up. Okay, forget that. We'll do another lap. Again, second gear here. See where I am on the rev counter as I hit the apex. Just around 5,000. Look, I've got all this room in second gear to accelerate. Should be the same here, maybe a little bit higher here. Yeah, 6,000, well, 5.5. Out the last corner should be around 6, yeah. Loads of room on the revs. I'll just show you what it's like when you... I'll just show you the difference when I drop... Oh, I've only got one more ratio to change on second gear, so I'm just going to show you what it's like. Just let the car go past. I'm just going to show you what it's like when you get your second gear just a tad too low. And I might not be able to show you because I'm sort of used to the track now, so I might be able to just get away with it, but I just want to sort of explain, you know, and just show you that the last thing you want to be doing is changing gear on an exit. You know, you might sort of feel that you're losing a bit of time because there's no power in the engine on the apex, but trust me, you're not. This, you know, yeah, these. I don't know. I might be able to still drive out of here, but it will be harder for me to do. But it might not show up to you guys. Well, it's a little bit harder just because the second gear's around the peak power of the engine now. Yeah. This is where it should show up, coming out of this second gear right-hander. And I promise you I won't try and make it look too obvious. Oh, I've messed up again. Let me go back and do it. So I'm pretty sure that's where it's going to show up badly. Always remember in a test session, when you're on your own in the test session, you can just drive wherever you want. So if you mess a corner up, just go back and do it again. You haven't got to do another lap. Alright, let's have a look at this exit now. So, it doesn't make it that much harder really, but what's happened is I've not been able to move my second gear too far away from where it was because I only had one more ratio to go, so it's not in a horrible range now. Right, I've gone to an extreme on the second gear now. Well, I've just changed the final diff now, so it will be miles out of its comfort zone now. But you know, you do see people that are driving this car, you know, and they've got like a really low second gear, and then a massive jump to third gear. You know, a massive jump across all the gears, and so hopefully this is going to show up now. There we go. So although I'm not losing the rear, I'm not able to put my foot down anywhere near as hard as I could. So this should be alright because the revs, even that one's quite tough. You find that, you know, just then, did you notice that the revs just stuck on 9,500? So even that corner's quite tricky now because the revs are too high for it in third gear. And this will be a joke, this one. Nice bit of breakfast. That's not too bad, that one. It's quite a slow corner. So 6,500 there, we're probably going to be about 7,000 here. That's where, if you just go back and watch the replay of that last corner, that's a perfect example of why you don't want to run out of revs on an exit. Because this corner is actually faster than the one before. I'll just go and do it again. So you can see my second gear is miles too low for the exit of that corner onto the front straight. And I'm having to change gear when I'm on the exit curve pretty much. I mean, you can do it, you know, you can get away with it, but it's not fast. It's not clever. So yeah, so when you set your gears up, just always make sure you've got enough room in second gear. Mainly second gear, but pretty much all the gears. Sometimes it means you've got like a really weird sounding gearbox, you know, like you'll have a big jump from, well, not what normally happens is you set your, I don't know if it's going to happen this week with me, with my setup on the gears, but what normally happens is you might have, you know, you'll set up first gear to get off the line, normally, you know, so you're not going to get massive amount of wheel spin and run out of revs. You know, and you don't really want a massive jump between first and second off the line because you're just not going to go anywhere. You're either not going to go anywhere or you're going to have a lot of fishtailing around when you get up to second gear. So you want to keep first gear as close as possible to second gear, but don't sacrifice your second gear, you know, to make yourself better off the line. You know, it's so much worse. You know, why was I so slow at Zandvoort? Because I set my second gear up. There's a few reasons why, but one of the reasons was I used higher tyre pressures to be quick at the start, and my second gear was pretty close to my first gear, and it hurt me off the second gear corner exits. It was still alright, you know, but yeah, always aim for your second gear. So I was going to say, yeah, so your second, so normally your first, second, third and fourth, you can set them up really, really close, because you're not that much, you don't spend that much time in 5th gear. I know you do, but you know, at these big tracks and all the rest of it, and you're going to set your gears up so you use all your gears, but it's more important to get your 2nd, 3rd and 4th gears perfect, you know, and sacrifice your 5th gears. You can get away with a big jump from 4th to 5th. So if you hit you've hit 9,500. Oh yeah, another thing as well, I see a lot of people changing gear just around 9,000 RPM. You're losing so much engine power between 9,000 and 9,500. You know, the engine will go to 9,500 or just a little bit under 9,500. You know, that's where you want to change up. Never change up around 9,000 or under. You know, you're just losing. You know, your engine's got, I'm just guessing, but your engine probably have about 30 horsepower less than someone who's changing gear at 9,500. You know. So yeah, so do whatever you can to make sure you're in the right gear out of these 2nd gear corners. And don't worry about 5th gear so much. You know, keep all the gears up to 4th gear nice and perfect for the lap, and just aim for your 5th gear on your obviously your final drive. Yeah, a lot of tracks I do that. I did it in Lagos. I had a really close gear set up to 4th gear, and then it was quite a big jump to 5th gear, because you're not actually in 5th gear that long. You're only in 5th gear from the kink to turn 1. So as long as you've got enough revs, even if you hit the limiter slightly, which I was, I think, you know, set it up that way. You know, so don't worry about the big jump from 4th to 5th gear. Just worry about keeping your first 4 gears really nice and tight, and make sure that 2nd gear is perfect for your exits. The only reason you do that, the only reason you do anything on this car, pretty much, apart from the power ramp, is to just make the car easier to drive for yourself. And definitely one of the you know, the biggest things that you can do to make the car easier to drive is have your 2nd gear set up perfect. I mean, I guarantee it, ask anyone in the top well, definitely the top 5 in any of the races you see, they will have a perfect 2nd gear coming off these corners. Guarantee it. In fact, I bet my house on it. If anyone's got a terrible 2nd gear and they're in the top 5 in these races, they will be an alien once they sort their gearbox out. Trust me. That's the end of my video today. I'm going. Hope you lot can hear me a lot better now because of the mic. I don't know if I already said this. I think I did say it, but a lot of people like the video on the differential and stuff like that. But a couple of guys couldn't hear me properly, and you know. So if you want me to do that, I did say it, didn't I, earlier. So if you want me to do that video again, I'll do it. Right, so I'll see you next week, guys, and good luck.